Started. Welcome everybody on the morning. Good morning. I guess starting now as we jump on live. Okay. So I think where I want to get started today, the section that we're going to be doing, also coming live to you from Peru, and it's been around 2 years since I've been here, and coming back to the valley, to the Sacred Valley, I feel very welcomed and loved by a lot of the people that I formed relationships with in the past year, and just very welcoming. And I was even invited to speak at this little event last night where I got to share a story, and then somebody invited me to be on a podcast. So that was day one of being here in Peru, and then today I am getting a whole tattoo session done. So I'll I'll share what that looks like after it's done. But following my stories, some of you guys that are online and on socials, of following my stories, I'll continue to update my trip here, and I'm excited for that. But yeah, I'll start today's call with just something more real of what's what is coming through, and feelings from me while I'm down here in Peru, while we wait for people to hop on. So coming to Peru, one, without my uh, wife with me, my babeski with me, I don't know, I just don't really like traveling and doing these types of things alone. Definitely uh, kind of alone moments, but probably good for for me and my soul, because now I get to really miss her. Um, so I had a lot of anxiety flying over here because we have real estate projects, a lot of things that I'm starting in back in the States. So we have two deals. I have like three deals needing to be refinanced right now. So that's causing me a little bit of stress. We have a deal that we need to close, a hotel deal, 125 units, um, in like less than 30 days, basically. So, all of these things are kind of heavy on me as I'm down here by myself. Um, and yeah, so I've been turning to A Course of Miracles a lot for peace of mind, because the course says any time that you feel anything besides peace is because you've deviated away from God. You there's a you're not trusting in the flow and what's supposed to be. You're not allowing. Right. So today's conversation actually is going to be really great. And I read it last night. I read it the day before. It's called Judgment and the Authority Problem. And so last week we talked about beyond perception, which is there are two worlds in which we live in. One is reality with a capital R, okay, which only love exists. There are no judgments, there are no stresses, no anxieties. We can just let's picture heaven that way, right? And the course says we've actually never left heaven. None of the stuff that we've created in the other world, which is the reality with a small lowercase r, which is things that we made. So we made a distinction in the last chapter, in the last section, of make versus create. So making is anything that we make, anything that is not eternal. And then creation is of God. So today we're going to talk about creation. We're going to talk about you know our problem, which is the authority problem, our authority problem with the fact that God created everything. And we're not creating anything. We're just making a whole bunch of stories up about, you know, real estate deals, about money, everything uh, that we think about, we've added stories and energies to. All right, so those, like, how do we go beyond that? And first is the recognition that that's the space we're in. We're not in truth, because when we live an unreal thing, when we live an illusion like it's truth, like my stress about all these real estate deals and all of these things, um, they're just an interpretation of life right now. There's a lot of my own projections and judgments into the space. What does it look like if I don't have those done? What does it look like if I don't close the deal and we lose money? And then, things that we set aside for other plans now, has to take a detour. But the course is like, dude, you don't even know what's in your own best interest. How do you know that not having this happen is not in your own best interest? Right? So everything in life is really always calling to us to remember who we are. And that's the only problem we have, is that we forget who we are and who our brothers and sisters are. Right? And in that, we don't actually know our creator. We don't know source, we don't know God. So the course says our only prayer, and this is one of my favorite lines in the course. I say that for everything, but this is one of my favorite lines in the course, is that prayer is a way of asking for something. It is the medium of miracles, but the only meaningful prayer is for forgiveness. And that forgiveness is the fact that we forgot that we are actually one, that we are creation of God, and that love is our inheritance. We can forget what our inheritance is, but we can't ever establish that that's not the truth. Right? We're not free to establish what our inheritance is, but we are free to forget about it. And so the forgiveness is to remember that. To remember who we really are. That is the only worthy thing to ask for. Anything else that we ask for is simply a delay to our own homecoming. And we ended the call last week about judgments. When we take the wrong turn, and we used GPS as our example. When the GPS says, okay, here's the destination, I'm going home, and I set the GPS and it says to go right, and then I miss the turn, or I make a left. The GPS, without judgment, just simply reroutes you. This is the Holy Spirit here. The GPS is the Holy Spirit. It simply just reroutes you. But what we do is we make the left turn, we make the wrong turn, and then we stop the car and we start judging ourselves for it, or blaming other people for missing it. Right? For that, I missed my turn, I missed this. And we sit in that space all the time. We forgot that we're even going home, because we're preoccupied with some other things, with judgment. And this is what the course says. Forgiveness is the asking for remembering that we're just supposed to follow the GPS back home. We forgot. That's why we sat still, we stopped the car, and we're delaying our own going home by judging ourselves, judging others. So today's topic is judgment and the authority problem. And that's the only problem that we have. The authority problem. We think we know what's best for ourselves. We think we know what's best for humanity, for our brothers and sisters, for our kids, for our parents. The list goes on and on and on. So I'll start by reading, and along the way, if there's any parts of it that you want clarification on, you have a question on, just unmute yourself and share, because we're co-remembering together. And any thoughts that come through, as I'm reading, it doesn't even have to pertain to that specific sentence or paragraph. Whatever thoughts that come through during that time, it's also good to share, because it's meant to be in the space. All right, so I'm going to start with just reading, and then we'll go into our kind of group remembering with our stories and shares and things like that. Okay, so this is chapter 3, called The Innocent Perception, section 6, Judgment and the Authority Problem. We have already discussed the last judgment. So this is what we talked about a couple of sections ago, but in insufficient detail. After the last judgment, there will be no more. Judgment is symbolic, because beyond perception, there is no judgment. When the Bible says, judge not that ye be not judged, it means that you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judgment, judging your own. That means it's like, if you attack or judge somebody else, you can't escape it. Even though we know it's not something that serves us, as we judge others, we cannot escape it. So that is, in terms of just self-preservation, even out of a selfish way of of awakening, the moment that we make a judgment or an attack on somebody else, if we can just remember that it's going to be on myself, I'm going to attack myself, I cannot escape it. See, that interrupts the ego, because the ego always, uh, um, what's it called? It never, you never get the blame, right? The ego always, what word am I looking for? Gives you like a ticket, a free ticket, a free get out of jail free card, right? Like the ego allows you off the hook. So if you can remember that as you attack and judge others, I can't escape it myself. That's an interruption. Right? So simply remembering that, if you remember nothing else from this call here today, perhaps this is something that we can take. That could be, you know, money worth moments for this call. So the choice to judge rather than to know. So we made a distinction of knowing before. Also, knowing is that beyond perception, there is a knowing. Knowing gives you the confidence, gives you the certainty. When I'm in the knowing, I don't feel anxious. I actually feel very inspired all the time. I feel very, I want to engage with people when I'm in the knowing, because I see my brothers and sisters as non-threatening. Only loving thoughts are going through my mind. Now, when I forget and when I'm not in the knowing, when I'm in my perception and interpretation, loveless thoughts come through my mind. And all the fears and stuff starts to show up. And the more we actually think and analyze and try to understand, the more we actually go into that space of fear and judgment, and the not good enough and the scarcity and all of that. Right? My wife's taking Babeski is taking a real estate course right now, and she said something from her teacher that was pretty profound yesterday, that the longer you think about something, or if you think about something for too long, you'll think wrongly. I thought that was very interesting quote right there. I like it. So the knowing, once you're in the knowing, it's the decisions are, when you make decisions, it is swift, right? Because you just know. So to choose, the choice to judge rather than to know is the cause of loss of peace. Judgment is the process on which perception, but not knowledge, rests. So knowing, knowledge, those are all kind of interchangeable words. Okay. I have discussed this before in terms of the selectivity of perception, pointing out that evaluation is its obvious prerequisite. So we have to evaluate things before we even judge it. And this takes, this puts our own, we kick God off the throne and we start evaluating, like we even know what's best, right? But we all know, I think most people are humble enough to say that we don't know very much in terms of all the knowledge that's available in the universe, right? That we know very, 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 very little. And so from that space, all right, well, I'm not even capable of making judgments. I'm not even capable of evaluating. We're evaluating from things that we made up from our own interpretations. We're evaluating from fear. We're evaluating from anxiety. We're evaluating from attack, from scarcity, which only creates more of itself. So are you even evaluating, or are you just going down a rabbit hole that is inevitable? It never emphasized only the positive aspects of what is judged, whether in you or in others. What has been perceived and rejected or judged and found wanting remains in your mind because it has been perceived. One of the illusions from which you suffer is the belief that what you judged against has no effect. I'll read that again. One of the illusions from which we all suffer is the belief that what we judge against has no effect, that there is no effect in us judging. This cannot be true unless you also believe that what you judge against does not exist. You evidently do not believe this, or you would not have judged against it. In the end, it does not matter whether your judgment is right or wrong. Either way, you are placing your belief in the unreal. This cannot be avoided in any type of judgment because it implies the belief that reality is yours to select from. I'm on page 47. This is chapter 3, section 6, judgment and the authority problem. So we just finished paragraph 2. So reality to choose from. Reality exists beyond you. When you judge, you believe this is you, that yours is the truth. But okay, so you have tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers and sisters totally without judgment. But when you recognize what you are and what your brothers and sisters are, you will realize that judgment is without meaning. In fact, precisely because you are judging them. From the belief version of judgment. You do not to organize yourself. In the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended. And this is the process that enables recognition to replace perception. Recognition, recognize again, or to see again, to remember again, right? Implying that you've known more. Recognizing, to see again. So recognition replaces perception. I recognize my brothers and my sisters. I recognize the soul, the light in which, and from there, it's not a dangerous world. It's only a dangerous world when we reinforce the idea that our minds are separate beings and souls, and that we have created ourselves. You are very fearful of everything you have perceived, but have refused to accept. You believe that because you have refused to accept it, you have lost control over it. This is why you see it in nightmares or in pleasant disguises in what seems to be your happier dreams. Nothing that you have refused to accept can be brought into awareness. It is not dangerous in itself, but you have made them seem dangerous to you. When you yourself as being capable of being, when you laugh at you as you must also laugh at yourself only because you cannot tolerate the idea of being more unworthy than they are. All this makes you tired because it is essentially disheartening. You're not really capable of being tired, but you are capable of wearying yourself. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It is curious that an ability to debilitate, ability so debilitating would be so deeply cherished. Like that, us like reinforcing and fighting and literally going to war with other people over our realities, right? Our interpretations. Why do we cherish being right so much? The reason that I'm unhappy, the reason why I'm anxious, right? I go straight to the symptoms of it, which is if this deal closes, if I get this refinance, if people get off my back, if we get this deal done, if I make $1 million, if I can just pay these bills, if my partner only did this, if the world only did this, then I would be happy. See, the recognition first is that me being right about that is what is continuing and propelling that exhaustion and tiredness and anxiety. If we don't want it, then why do we cherish the stories around it so much? Things that make us depressed, why do we cherish the stories that reinforce those so much? That's what the Course is saying. We are insane, but we have to recognize there is your reality versus the reality, God's reality. All of our problems, our discomforts, our you know, loss of peace comes from not recognizing that God's reality is the only reality. How do we align to that? How do we go beyond our own perception of things? Our own perception of scarcity, of not being good enough, of unworthiness. How do we go beyond that to the place of just knowing that I'm always taken care of, knowing that God always provides, knowing the universe is always providing me with everything I need for my return home, for my return to love. So, yet, if you wish to be the author of reality, you will insist on holding on to judgment. You will also regard judgment with fear, believing that it will someday be used against you. This belief can exist only in the extent that you believe in the efficacy of judgment as a weapon of defense for your own authority. We're defending our own reality with judgment and attack. We're readying our armies to defend. This is what I talk about all the time. In order for you to find peace, you have to lay down the shield as much as you're laying down the sword. You have to walk off that battlefield. The only way to walk off the battlefield is to believe that the world is not coming after you, that the world is a safe place, that people are not going to come after you, that people are not out to hurt you, that God isn't out to hurt you. So when the level of peace that will come through is what the Course is saying. When you lay down your army, when you lay down all the stories that you have been defending your whole life, whether it be about your parents or your partner or money, right? Like we know the stories that we hold on to. Just think about any person. Think about any person and then just look at the story that you have around this person, whether it's good or bad. The Course says it doesn't matter because you're judging incorrectly either way, right? Like that judgment itself already has you not be able to perceive your brothers and sisters in the right place. So any image you have of somebody that you've created, you've made, um, think about how much you're willing to defend that, right? Our own self-image. Okay, so where am I? God offers only mercy. Your words should reflect only mercy because it is what you have received and that is what you should give. Justice is a temporary expedient or an attempt to teach you the meaning of mercy. It is judgment only because you're capable of injustice. Oh no, what's happening? Okay. I have spoken of different symptoms at the level at that level. There is almost endless variation. We talked about the levels earlier in the chapter. We talked about the correction of levels. Body and the physical is all in the symptoms. Our world is not consistent enough with anything. Right? There is no set in stone one way of everything. Every single thing that we can possibly think of has multiple results. And it's just depending on what we want to do, right? My wife and I go back and forth on like meat and no and non-meat, the health of meat. That is a delay. Is what the Course says. It's a waste of time because there is no being right in that space. There's only what you believe. which is what you've created. You went and perceived and searched out the information that reinforces what you believe to be real. And so a big lesson for me of not eating meat, of being a vegetarian, is the acceptance and the letting go of the judgment of eating meat, of our world, of how we take care of meat and all of that. And all my stories behind it. Right now, I'm like excited and happy that my wife eats all the meat that she wants, and I don't even really engage in the conversation of which is better or not. Sometimes when I lose my mind, I do, but then ask forgiveness for remembering that I'm not here to battle over something that is meaningless, that is in the physical, in the 3D. Think about how much stuff we fight over, resources of the world. So when we think about the correction of level, one is at the level of the mind, of one mind, of God, which is the cause of everything, and then the symptoms, right? The physical, the body. But what we do whenever something comes up for us, like I shared about my anxiety and stuff about my real estate deals and things like that, that's fixing the symptoms. What do I actually want? And if I got those things, is it 100% certain that I will get what I say I want? No, probably not. Because I believe in the illusion. I believe I actually made the illusion of the physical more real. There is, however, only one cause for all of them, the authority problem. So this is what we're kind of building up to, is the authority problem. This is the root of all evil. Every symptom of the ego involves a contradiction in terms, because the mind is split between the ego and the Holy Spirit. So whatever the ego makes is incomplete and contradictory. The un uh, the untenable position is the authority problem, which, because it accepts the one inconceivable thought as its premise, can produce only ideas that are inconceivable. All right, what does that all mean? The course speaks in such a way that a lot of times when you read it, you're like, what? Why is it repeating the same words over and over again, and confusing us? But what it's saying is that God created something, right? God created love, heaven, created you and me. But the ego believes in a separated self. The ego believes that there is a you and a me that is separate and our interests are different, that we don't want the same things. And because we don't want the same things, you're actually a threat to me. The ego constantly creates that split. And every single thing, there is not one thing that the ego does that is not incomplete, or that is not incomplete or contradictory. Everything that the ego does and that we think through our ego is incomplete and contradictory and creates anxiety. And I keep using the word anxiety because that's the stuff that has been coming up for me a little bit. But whatever that be for you, right? You replace it with depression, anger, uh, you know, harshness to other people, um, whatever you want to replace it with that is not peace. Okay, that's what having contradictory and incomplete thoughts show up as. And that's how we perceive. Our interpretations, our perceptions are so like weak. That's why we have to constantly defend it. Right? We've all had times where, we thought one thing, like this is the way money is made, this is the way life is, right? Life is hard, money doesn't fall from trees, every penny saved is a penny earned. Like a lot of these things that we learn growing up, is that a fact? If we live it as a fact, all we are doing is limiting ourselves. We created limitations. They are not truth. And then we go to a real estate conference or we meet somebody that we're just like very open to and listening, and they say, oh, well, maybe that's not the case. And your entire interpretation just changes. Your perception of all those stories just change. And I'm using the example of money and real estate and things like that, but you can replace it with anything. Abandonment from my parents, right? If I experience this, that means I must, as a parent myself, I must do all of these things to control the outcome. And that like false sense of being able to control an outcome is what is ultimately going to lead to our demise. Right? How many people just try to do things so perfectly just to have it all shatter and have it not turn out the way it's supposed to? And then how many things in our life that has been super challenging, super hard, has been the best things ever. Right? Like for me in this moment, why can't I draw from myself, from my past experiences of the level of stress, the heartbreaks and the loss and these things all actually were just great lessons, the best things that could have happened to me. Now I can't because I've made these other things real. So how do we get past it? The way we get past it is we have to ask for help. And in this section, it's saying that you have to recognize that you have an authority problem. You are asking yourself for help when you need to be asking the Creator for help. And what we actually do is we don't even ask God for help. We just look for other things that reinforces like our own thoughts right now. Oops, hold on. Somebody was trying to join. So everything really comes down to that authority problem. Why are we unwilling to give things over so that God can show us a different way to experience? Hi, Babeski. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Babeski.
Why are we unwilling to let go of these things? And we want to defend our own stories so much when they have led to so many heartbreaks, so many false idols falling and crashing. All right, so I'll continue my read. The issue of authority is really a question of authorship. When you have an authority problem, it is always because you believe you are the author of yourself and project your delusions onto others. You have perceived the situation as one in which others are literally fighting you for your authorship. This is the fundamental error of all those who believe they have usurped the power of God. Okay, it's not just some of us, it's every one of us does this at one point or another. We have an authority problem. God, who creates, we think we now create. And all we do is we propel the same, this little tiny image of our own selves, a separated self, which is out there to others, even the truth. This belief is very frightening to them but it hardly troubles God. He is, however, eager to undo it, not to punish his children, but only because he knows that it makes them unhappy. God's creations are given their true authorship, but you prefer to be anonymous when you choose to separate yourself from the author, from your author. Being uncertain of your true authorship, you believe that your creation was anonymous. This leaves you in a position where it sounds meaningful to believe that you created yourself. The dispute over authorship has left such an uncertainty in your mind that it may even doubt whether you really exist at all. I mean, people that go deep into this way of thinking go into that space, right? I mean, I know in my spiritual journey and path Sometimes I'm like, wait, do I even really exist at all? Only those who give over all desire to reject can know that their own rejection is impossible. You have not usurped the power of God, but you have lost it. Fortunately, to lose something does not mean that it is gone. It merely means that you do not remember where it is. Its existence does not depend on your ability to identify it or even to place it. It is possible to look on reality without judgment and merely know that it is there. Peace is a natural heritage of spirit. Everyone is free to refuse to accept his inheritance, but he is not free to establish what his inheritance is. So peace is reject it and deny it, but that is still your inheritance. You can't change it. You can only misperceive others, and so you can't change a situation, but you can only perceive those things. And the indicator of you misperceiving is a loss of peace. That's the indicator for us. So if I feel anxiety, if I feel depressed, if I feel angry, it is because I'm simply refusing to accept what is. And I have made it my perception of something. The problem everyone must decide is the fundamental question of authorship. All fear comes ultimately and sometimes by way of various devious routes from the denial of authorship, but only to those who deny him. To deny his authorship is to deny yourself the reason for your peace, so that you see yourself only in segments. This strange perception is the authority problem. Okay, so last week, beyond perception, this is talking about us being in perception. And the reason why we want to stay in perception is because we find value in judgment, one, and two, we have an authority problem. We choose not to see. We choose to see ourselves as segments, as fragmented pieces of the whole. We choose to see others as separate from us. Okay, we are choosing that, but it does not mean that it is real. So first recognizing for ourselves that what we are seeing is not reality. That's our way back home. There is no one who does not feel that he is imprisoned in some way. If this is the result of his own free will, he must regard his will as not free, or the circular reasoning of his position will be quite apparent. Free will must lead to freedom. Judgment always imprisons because it separates segments of reality by the unstable scales of desire. Wishes are not facts. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. Ooh, that's a good one. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. Yet no one in his right mind believes that what is wished is as real as what is willed. Instead of seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, say, will ye first the kingdom of heaven? And you have said, I know what I am, and I accept my own inheritance. That is the only prayer. Last week we talked about what is the only prayer. The only prayer is for asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness that I don't know who and what I am, and I didn't accept my inheritance. The prayer is for you to remember only that. That is the only meaningful prayer is for remembering. Everything else is a delay. All right, Nelson, see you later. Okay, so that is judgment and the authority problem. I'll open it up to anybody. Actually, let me see if anybody's live anywhere else. I always forget to read comments and stuff. But any thoughts Any questions about what we share today? I know A Course in Miracles sometimes can be like, it just has us sitting in thought the whole time. But what would be great is whatever anybody has in terms of anywhere that you don't have peace in your life. Using this space to share opens up more teachings and more lessons for all of us together. And we use the teachings of A Course in Miracles to try to bring more peace to the collective. Mhm. Oh, I'm so excited for one of my brothers to be here in Peru today. So, I guess recapping a little bit of what this whole chapter has been about is returning our mind to innocent perception. And what is innocent perception? Innocent perception is to see the truth of ourselves and of our brothers and sisters. Okay, we've talked a lot of on a very high level where your mind should be, what you should focus on, but what do we do while we're in the world, while we're in the 3D world? Right? What is the doing that we got to do? And the doing is to check your own judgments, to be able to become aware of that and why it is something that you don't want. And two, to be able to see your brothers and sisters in the most innocent, divine, loving, godly way possible. Because what what goes around comes around, right? The course says you cannot escape anything you project outwards. That means if you're angry, see what the ego does is when I'm angry, I want to project my anger so that other people feel my anger. And that's the ego's way of trying to find alliance and partnership. You see how the ego can get really clever and ingenious of creating oneness. Oh, so you want oneness, Alex? This is what you do. They experience it too, and now we're one. But the ego is really clever because the ego does actually not want to be one. The ego wants everything to be separate. So it creates the fear so that it can use it later. It creates the fear so that it has you think that actually your brothers and sisters are not safe. Right? That something's wrong with this child of God over here. And back now to the authority problem. God, you made a mistake on this in this person right here. And then we defend that. We defend that with everything. All right. So the innocent perception is to one to know that we live in a world in a reality with a lowercase r, our own reality, which isn't even real. Because everything you see is up for your interpretation. Actually, it's in accordance to your interpretation. Like it all has to make sense in your mind, right? In your ego mind, like all of these things has to have a place. That means I have to place a judgment on this, place a judgment on that. Everything needs interpretation. But what is beyond perception is knowledge, which is this knowing that comes from deep inside of you. And you recognize it when you're around it. You recognize it when you see it. You recognize it when you hear it. When people are truly in their authentic self, in like creation mode, when they're just inspired coming from passion, you can feel it, you can see it, and you feel inspired by it. There's a knowing inside to recognize that. Now, tapping into this knowing is what will bring us peace in the times when we don't feel peace. And that is to say, God, what is your will? And let me align my will to it. Let me not wish for a bunch of things that are just going to delay my own homecoming. Let's align our wills. And that is sufficient. And that's enough. That means when things are not going your way, my way is not the way, God, universe, whoever you want to call upon. And that alignment of wills is your free will. And that leads to freedom. Freedom from the stuff that you don't want. Freedom from fear. Freedom from conflicts. Freedom from money scarcity, love scarcity, not enoughness, unworthiness. Like we have to ask God, what's your will? And let me align to it. Show me a different way to look at it. Obviously, the way I'm looking at it is not working. I feel anxious. I can't sleep. I can't work because I'm distracted. My way is not working. See, we don't even go into that. What we do is we go into let's fix symptoms. This person behaves this way, then it will work. This situation happens the way I want it, then it'll work. You know? So how do we interrupt those? Is ask. You just ask. Literally, I'm starting to develop as we talk right now a different relationship to the anxiety that comes up for me around some of the things. Or around and it's gonna come because I'm trying to do such big things. And probably Holy Spirit and God is just laughing like, wow, look at you. Like, what are you even trying to do? You're trying to change things that does not need to be changed. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. But I've already gone so far down the road, God. What do I do now? I have to always ask for a different way to look at it. That is what we need to do. Because the way that I'm looking at it is not working. And so it's been awesome because literally prayer is asking, right? So it's asking for something, asking for remembering, asking for forgiveness that we forgot so that we may remember. And so literally probably now in the last year, I've talked about this in a lot of my different interviews and podcasts about the challenges of doing bigger deals and things like that in real estate. Having a mastermind, having mentorship groups, having people follow you and listen to you, having social media, having influence. Like there comes, if you can't be grounded, if you don't find something to ground yourself in, it is going to be crazy. You're going to turn crazy. Marianne Williamson running for president. Some of the things that she says, I'm like, did she write these books? Right? Like some of the things that come out of her mouth now, I'm like, is she still studying A Course in Miracles? But she is playing at that level where she now has an opportunity to go even deeper into the work. She's probably going to create a whole bunch of chaos and conflict in her life so that she can remember again on a bigger stage with more at stake. And so for me, that's how it's been. Like once upon a time, I was super stressed out about losing an action figure or a Lego piece. Now I'm super stressed out about not being able to close a $13 million deal. And then tomorrow I'm going to be super stressed about a $100 million deal. Like, where is this all going to end? So, anyways, I'm kind of like having a conversation with myself right now, which is really interesting. But feel free, anybody, to chime in anywhere, you know? Nice. Go ahead, Claudia.
Wow, thank you. I just been taking it in. Super powerful lesson today, so I wanted to take a moment to express that. I've actually hadn't learned this lesson, and so the authority piece was, it just hit home so hard. And yeah, wow, I just want to acknowledge you again. Yeah, for, I mean, it's just been spot on. Every single word you're saying is just landing so powerfully.
Oh.
So I want to just reflect that, and yeah, and for me, really, that's the key, right? The authorship,
Mm-hmm.
and really getting clear with that, right? The creation is really coming through, and once you make that shift, wow, it's like that is like you're finally aligned with creation, and that's when you start living.
Mm-hmm.
So amen to that. Really, my prayer is that everyone here on the call really fully receive that, and can start to live life from that place of remembering where we come from. And yeah, our job is just to let go and let God.
Like, yeah, I love, even in this moment, I mean, I hear alignment all the time. People are always aligned, alignment, align. Is this align and that's align? I'm like, dude, I'm not even sure what the word align means anymore, because I hear it so much in so many different contexts, right? So right now, you saying aligned is like, it really lands at like, my will aligns with the creator, with God, and in that, life becomes easy. We recognize our function and our calling and what we're supposed to do, because we're literally just being a channel. And when we align to that, like, oh my God, all the weight off my shoulders, it is not up to me. I'm just here to respond to every situation with love. Love for myself, love for others, patience, kindness, compassion. That's my only job, is to bring that to all the conflicts in the world and in my own life. So yeah. Okay, aligned. There we go. We are aligned to alignment. Go ahead, Fraser.
I just find it interesting that we all have different versions of scarcity, or what is to come, is it, and like how we try to control it. And then we have to really, I've been practicing myself, like, to prayer and to let it go and to leave it in God's hands daily, which has been challenging.
That's an authority problem right there. That's it.
It's the trust, right? It's being trusting in that, in the process of what's happening, right? I'm going through some major changes in the way I look at things, the way I'm doing business, the way that, I mean, owed a lot of money for like quite a while, and I'm just like, that's okay. It'll come around soon enough. But then you get these moments where your stomach goes, and you're just like, holy shit, handling for a minute, and then you just gotta, yeah, that's when I like really lean into the prayer. And actually, one of the things that you said is to ask God to let me see it in another way, right? To see it from a different perspective. And I've been trying to really lean into that to help. And every time I do, every time I go into that prayer, it just kind of just floats away. But it's a daily thing right now.
I hear you, man. Same thing. Like probably 1,000 times a day, right? Like, God, just show me a different way to look at it. Yeah, awesome. Go ahead, Claudia. Other Claudia. You'll have to hit the unmute button.
Coming. Okay. Yes, I know.
Okay.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
Having participated in a while because it was challenging here at the office, but So I just put in the chat there that it's been a reminder for me watching this TV show is called Love on the Spectrum, because these are adults looking for love, adult autistic people. And then, we have a lot of them in between us. And as my kids went in elementary school with a big community of them, and I'm always wanting my kids to see them like normal people, right? And then this show shows so much of that respect and the way how they speak to each other. They program them to, fit in the society that we are into it. But I feel that the show is teaching us to be in that space of respect and how to speak to each other is a very beautiful. So talking about the authority, in that case, like they still live, like you see them like they still like a little bit like children. They don't forget to act like children, but they're assuming that they're adults now. They're all looking for love and looking for a significant other. And then you see how in different parts, there's a little programs there that it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful just to be witnessing that. So I just wanted to share that reflection for the theme today. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a look at it. So it's a show, huh?
Yeah, it's a TV show here in the United States. It only has 2 seasons here. And there's one from Australia that I'm watching now as well. Very, very, very particular way that is so gorgeous to watch it. So now when I have some hiccups with my husband, I say, oh, I had a autistic moment. So I reflect back to him and I say, this is it. And then I come back to him and then it's working. It's working. Because if we don't have that spectrum or that wire in our brain, we do have some aspect of it. At least I feel that I do have little aspects of those parts of the autistic. So that generation or that brain wired is giving us, like teaching us. I feel that they're teachers for us. So yes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, me and my wife, whenever we fight, I'm just like, first thing I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. See, I lost my mind. I'm like, yeah, I lost my mind. Yeah, so kind of same thing. Let's see what else. We got through this whole section pretty fast. I flipped back to the back of the chapters, the back of the book for A Course in Miracles. And of course, I flip right to what is creation? Literally, just flipped right to it. So I haven't read this in a while, so let's kind of check it out together and see where our conversation goes from here. So what is creation? Creation is the sum of all God's thoughts, in number infinite and everywhere without all limits. Only love creates, and only like itself. There was no time when all that it was created was not there, nor will there ever be a time when anything that is created suffers any loss. Forever and forever in God's thoughts, exactly as they were and as they are, unchanged through time and after time is done as well. God's thoughts are given all the power that their own creator has, for he would add to love by its extension. Thus his son shares in his creation and must therefore share in the power to create. What God has willed to be forever one will still be one when time is over, and will not be changed throughout the course of time, remaining as it was before the thought of time began. Creation is the opposite of all illusions, for creation is the truth. Creation is the Holy Son of God, for in creation and his will is his will complete in every aspect, making every part of the container of the whole. Its oneness is forever guaranteed, inviolate, forever held within his holy will, beyond all possibility of harm, of separation, imperfection, and of any spot upon its sinlessness. We are creation. We, the sons of God, We seem to be discreet and unaware of our eternal unity with him. Yet back of all our doubts, past all our fears, there is still certainty. For love remains with all its thoughts, its sureness being theirs. God's memory is in our holy minds, which know their oneness and their unity with their Creator. Let our function be only to let His memory return, only to let God's will be done on earth, only to be restored to sanity and to be but as God created us. Our Father calls to us, we hear his voice, and we forgive creation in the name of its creator. Holiness itself, whose holiness his own creation shares, whose holiness is still part of us. So this creation is this it's the love that's always been here and will always be here and forever be here. Nothing you can ever do can change it. Really, the only thing we can do is to align to it. And once we are aligned to it, we share the same power to extend, because that's how God's love extends. Is we are thoughts, we are an idea, and the idea is and was always and will and it was always and always will be love. When we are not thinking in love, we have just forgotten, but when we align ourselves to that frequency, all we can do is create more of it, because we become an extension of what is real. Everything else is just us forgetting, is our detour, our delay back to the alignment itself. And so recognizing when we do that is what's important. Recognizing it, an illusion for illusion and truth for truth, is what we need to be practicing on a moment to moment basis. From moment to moment, we will forget and then remember and then forget again and then remember. And so we're just trying to remember creation, looking to be aligned to it. Thoughts, questions? What I love also is the end of A Course in Miracles, where it says that this course is the beginning, not an end. It really just brings it back to that full circle. The course is the beginning. We go through all this work, all this practice, being on these calls, and even before we were reading this and before Claudia and Fraser shared, both Claudias, like, these calls just help us remember. I mean, definitely help me, right, as I'm going through it. And then literally moments later, I know I'm going to forget. Like, wait, what were we talking about before? And we gotta keep doing it until our remembering gets strong enough. Repetition. Repetition will interrupt. So yeah, I'm really grateful and glad that so many of you guys are so committed and are on all of these calls. Like, it really means the world to me to be doing this with you. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it wasn't for these calls on Wednesdays and Sundays, I probably will go weeks without reading the course. I know it. So you guys keep me accountable. Like, before this session, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, a couple days before, I need to at least start reading it. And good that it's only like 3 days apart, each one. That's why my goal is to kind of eventually do this every day and then just write. This is like my only focus I want to do, and I probably could just start doing it now. What's the delay? I don't know. Gotta go get all that physical, that 3D world stuff done. But at some point, I'll probably stop putting myself into these situations where I will be anxious and lose peace. All right, so we have a little more time. We went through this pretty fast today. I feel like today's call was like we lost time. We broke through time. What else? Anybody? Also super interesting is like usually when I come to Peru, I like to stay in like the most like bougie places, whatever is the most bougie place that is available. And I had an option to do so, and I chose not to. I chose like this hostel place, and is because so I'm here also for one of my friends like another wedding thing that they're doing, and my ex's sister is also here because she's dating somebody that is part of this circle. And so it was awkward. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not staying over there in that area. So now I'm in a place, with I don't know. I came in here, and for those of you guys that know me, like I do not like spiders. All right, two spiders on the wall as soon as I came in here. When I was living in Peru before in the bougie place, I never even saw one spider. Two in my first entrance in, but you know what? I'm just gonna leave it as is. There's like flies and shit everywhere. I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? Go ahead, Fraser. I don't even know why I shared that. It's just I'm annoyed by these flies around me right now.
Well, I think that you said spider because I can't stop looking at the ceiling behind you. There's a weird black spot.
It's
I'm
a
like,
hole.
"Oh,
It's a
Jack."
hole. It's a hole. Probably where the spiders come from, though.
That would have freaked me out though if it was a giant spider. I'm not gonna lie.
I know what the.
Oh,
But I don't know. We'll see.
how big are the spiders? Hand size?
No, no, no. They're like tiny, really tiny. But there are hand-sized spiders here in this area, I think.
Creepy.
Yeah. So I'll give you guys a little view also with virtual too. Look, here is outside my window. This is why I loved Peru so much when I was living here. This is kind of like call it the hood side of town, but they call it Gringoville is where all the Americans come and live in this area. They gather all here. But there is another side of town that I stayed at the last couple times, which they're, very nice, big houses that's very cozy and comfy. Um, maybe I'll go there. All right, what else? Yeah, so Mike lives right up the street from me. Lisa's like in town somewhere, so. But I got to go to their event last night that Mike was throwing, and then I actually got up and spoke. I was not planning to do that. But Lisa has shared the story of the dolphin trip, of how she actually like activated her voice, that a dolphin actually was like sending signals to her to activate her voice. And I had to get up there and share also because it reminded me of when I went on the dolphin trip. So one of my good brother and sister, they run a dolphin retreat in Bimini in Bahamas. And it was very profound and life changing. I mean, we got to swim with wild dolphins, and just like literally magic happens in there. I don't even know what's going on. Like 30 dolphins showed up, and we got to play with them. And at one point, I remember it was so. As Lisa was sharing, I was like, "Oh my god, I totally forgot this memory." There was a point where we were in the water, and I was holding on to two dolphins like this, like my homies. And we were just in the water. I'm like, what are the dolphins doing? That they're just like that cool with me. and then like 30 dolphins, 2 hours. All right.
I want to share that part too. Can I share?
Yeah.
So for me, I overcame the fear because when I was in dental school, I think I was 19 or 20 years old. I had two brothers who pulled me out of the beach. I was stuck in a swimming, getting tired, but I never screamed for help or anything. And they pulled me because I was drowning. So I had that in my experience, and I needed to overcome that. And part of that trip that I did it last year as well with some of us here, it was very profound because realized that you have to get out of the fear of the water first, and then to encounter dolphins after. So for me, in that space, like the breathing work and everything that we had to do, previous. So when we were in the water, in the open water, that was like very profound. So talking about overcoming things, that was one profound overcoming. Some of your activities didn't. Some of us, we healed some, traumas or things that we have gone in the past or whatever, right? So it was totally a rebirth for me. So, and then like you say, it was like, we don't know what happened in there, but it does magic for sure. So
Yeah.
just wanted to share that.
Yeah, totally. The dolphin trip was really, really cool. I don't know if they're gonna run it again this year, but I went maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, so I mean, we don't have to drag this out longer if there is nothing else. I feel like we got really deep and really profound with the teachings of the course today, really fast. And let's just try to recap a little bit of it so we can at least take something away that we can do, like actual doing, right? So the course in the beginning of this section. In the beginning of this session is knowing that anytime that you judge, anytime you attack, that there is no way that you can escape it. And so let's awaken for selfish reasons today, right? It's okay. Let's awaken for selfish reasons today, that we just simply remember as we judge anything throughout the day, that we cannot escape judgment ourselves. If we, even good or bad, right? The ego will catch on to anything. Just judgment itself has you perceive things incorrectly. Because as you judge something to be good, on the other end, you're implying there's something that's bad. And that's the split that the ego is trying to get, the trick, right? You may say, oh, I just have good judgments of everything. There is no such thing. Judgment is just judgment. And as you judge, you can't escape judgment yourself. So we'll remember that today, and we'll awaken spiritually through selfish reasons today. We don't want to be judged, and we want to escape the pain and the conflicts that we instill upon ourselves. And we have a choice. And the choice is stop it with the authority problem. We can ask for help anytime. And that's the prayer. The prayer is to ask for help to remember. Like, just help us remember. Because even as we go through the course, we go through everything, like literally right after the call, we can like get to something that we're going to lose our peace over. Right? In the moment while we're going through, like, oh yeah, that's right. And then literally right after the call, we can get into conflicts immediately. So we'll take away just a little bit something of at least a practice that we can focus our mind to, right? Like we don't need to be distracted with everything. Let's focus on just recognizing judgment. As I judge anything, I cannot escape the judgment of myself. All right, so we'll end it at that. And so thank you all for participating, for being here with me on this very special call. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Sunday. Okay, yeah, Sunday we're gonna do noon. Okay, so that would be 11 my time. Yeah, so Sunday we'll do noon, EST, and we'll go from there. All right, and we'll do that on Wednesday as well, moving forward. All right, have a fantastic day, everybody. Hope you guys.
Thank you, brother Alex.
Talk soon, everyone. Bye.